Right. Hi, this video is about how we're not playing the state superstructures game. And there's a clear difference between us and mainstream political parties. They're part of the state superstructure. Whereas we're certainly not part of the state superstructure. There's no, I don't have a plan. I don't want anyone, like my demographics, whatever, to replace the state. It's not about that. It's not about us getting power that they've got, because then we just become like them. It's I explain. It's not that I don't think any policy from Westminster Parliament that I want can't get put through because we're against the state superstructure. But we won't be the ones doing that, so to speak. We put pressure on the political class until we become ungovernable, because our demands are too much for them. They can't do it. They can't not do it, and therefore their power just evaporates. Let's first of all start off on things that state superstructure have done. Okay, fine, well, good, whatever. Because nothing's 100%, evil and terrible or brilliant and amazing. I want to get rid of the state superstructure because they're useless, but they're not 0 out of 100, never done anything. Because then you would say, well, just a few years back, lesbians and gays got gay marriage, throughout the whole world. That had to be applied through state superstructure, but it came from the people. After World War II, 1945, Labour government was fantastic, I think. But that's the last time there was a fantastic government. That's how I see that. Anyway, that was the last government that was for the people and cared for the people. It was a long time ago. Now, in Germany, talking about World War II, but rather than Nazis up to more modern times, couldn't be more different now. The public managed to use the system to get what they wanted. They wanted people, different demographics, wanted people who look like me, talk like me, sound like me, to represent them rather than the same old. I know Angela Merkel was their leader, but people around her were all old men, you know what I mean? And now there's 3 parties, I think, in power there, and they've got like a greater representation, and they do think that's good, and I think that's forevermore going to stay like that now over there, because once you get that, why would that go? But there's one thing that's a problem. They say, well, that's state superstructure. You want to get rid of the state superstructure, Paul. Yeah, I'm sure that in Germany they'll have the same problem as us, the participation problem. There's this remoteness stuff to do with the state has to be overcome. There's a participation problem. If everyone was participating in it, that wouldn't be a problem, would it? So that's a problem there. And there's, of course, just in general, whenever you think of any policy, you can think of how they can be so manipulative. UBI, for instance, it mustn't be a right-wing UBI. It mustn't be set low just to buy people off. It's that sort of politician slyness that makes me want people, not to be in charge, because to be in charge, power corrupts, but for the political class to lose their power to be thinly spread so you can't say there it is. So I don't believe in X, Y, or Z being in charge, so to speak, because power corrupts, and we would just become them. But yeah, that slyness is why I want their clique to lose their power, and because power corrupts anyone. So it's not just their slyness, it become ours too. And so that thing about German representation, yeah, it's like I can understand that people want people like them to be in power if there's going to be people in power, but they'll become corrupt too. So if they're off, prefer them to be the ones who are being corrupt. it's just a stepping stone. It's a necessary stepping stone. People always go like for like, but it's not enough. Now, trying to think what the main point of this video is going to be. What the state superstructure is. We're not part of the state superstructure. So therefore, you ask, if we're not part of the state superstructure, how come? So therefore, you ask, if we're not part of the state superstructure, how can we have any influence? Right, this is how. When Starmer gets into government, we can then put pressure online on the internet for him to do X, Y, Z policies. If he doesn't do them, we will withdraw our support. Now, eventually, so we get UBI in that way. He might get out of NATO that way. I doubt it, because I don't think he'll do that one. We can. I'm just trying to think what other sort of policies might be able to do. There could be like other redistributive policies, obviously, and taxes that should be applied to billionaires or whatever. Now, if we can do that, if we can start putting pressure on so that eventually he cracks, maybe another policy could be getting more students at the uni, a crucial one, because we want them on our side doing this stuff online, getting the state in a situation where it cannot win. So we get policies put through that are crucial for now. It needs to be done now because it's urgent. But then eventually we just become ungovernable, and it's not that the state is then brought down. Don't put violent imagery in the head of revolution. Nothing changes on the surface, but what gradually unfolds, and at some point people catch on, or people might catch on at different times because not everyone's the same. But they realise that power's no longer there. Downing Street, Parliament, they just come to realise it, and then they realise, oh, it's all right, that pressure online or something made it go. People grew out of it. They might not be sure how it happened, but they realise it's no longer there. And the way we'll do it is through online pressure, weakening them. And it's not that we take over again, it's then power's just thinly spread. Now, it would be ridiculous of me to put out a detailed crystal ball psychic outlook of what exactly in detail is involvement. So that involvement mustn't become like a power and control, corrupting, manipulative, provoking, bullying, we're in charge, you're not kind of attitude. That is everything we're against. So it has to be thinly spread. So we're just playing our contributory participation. So you're just doing your thing. I mean, there's people that doing that now, working, I don't know, mental health charities or whatever. They're not front and center. I mean, like, so for example, a UBI activist would suit me, online, getting people to know where to go to get more money. I'm just thinking that it's not a power tripping thing. It is thinly spread. You get people in university, and it implies that I'm trying to do some kind of French Paris riot at the end of it. Everyone's violent and trying to bring down the state. That's not what I mean. I want to do a middle way between maybe it's Paris and what we have now in Britain. So it's so much more mature. It's decentralizing without actually passing a policy that decentralizes. It just happens naturally. We've got to give it a push. We're trying to weaken the government down on line, but it's using brain, not brawn. Because if you try to bring the state down in violence, like, you're going to get your ass kicked. You know, we always say we're kicking their ass. You know, we've done lots of good stuff to harm the state and whatever, but if we can't do it physically because they've got tanks and guns, and basically that's enough. Tanks and guns is enough. They could eventually put the army out. If they were losing, they'd eventually just put the army out. They would never give up power voluntarily. So basically what we do is the way I'm putting it here. I mean, and I'm not interested in violence anyway, even if we would win, because it's going to cause more fear and hurt than anything, isn't it? It's just like totally horrible. So I want to do it this way, in a peaceful, brain way, not in a violent way that wouldn't work anyway. So that's why this video is all titled about why we are not state superstructure. We're not to do with that. We're outside of it, and we end the state as we know it, and we can do that. We can do that. It would be ideal if we had just a figurehead online, a Caitlin Johnston, the Australian journalist would be brilliant, but she lives in America and she's more interested in American politics than British politics, unfortunately. But nevertheless, I must admit this, like the following: there's no way this can be done cleanly. It's going to be messy. It won't be violent, messy, but it will be a mess, because these sort of things, although we can see that we can win, we can't just plan it out in a neat, tidy and orderly manner. It won't work like that. That's because there's power trying doesn't want this to happen. If they would just said, okay, go on, and that would be different, but it's not like that. So this will be a mess, but that's the only way to get from here to a fairer society that's less provocative, less bullying, less manipulative, less propagandizing, less brainwashing, less power mad. And it'd be just for people in general. I mean, if you said to me, oh, not everyone will be on your side, Paul, come on, I'd say, yeah, of course, it's always going to be. Like, for example, you might say, you must think there's idiots in society, Paul. You can't make them so they're all not idiots. I'd say, yeah, it's true. So, like, people who support right-wing and far-right stuff, it's horrible. And we can make that there's less of them, more education, getting more into uni. But even if at the end of the day there was 5 million less of them, because they're being more educated now, especially with the inquiries we were doing in the right-wing press over history, and also inquiry into state superstructure per se, and all the brainwashing, propagandizing science they've got of power and control. Even after all that, there'd still be millions of idiots, in my view. You know, even if there was 5 million less. So So there's always going to be a bias in people's heads to their own. Like I was saying at the start with the German representation, like we like, some of them won't budge because their like is different to what our representation is, and they'll want their representation. So there's always going to be that demographic feel about it that's not 100% perfect for everybody, but I am insistent that a lot of those idiots are idiots, and it's just unfortunate that the idiots will always be with us. They'll never be the majority, but they'll always be there. I mean, they're not interested in getting rid of power. They're power mad, power obsessed, and their way of doing power is by dividing things up. So say, join us if you hate them, that sort of thing. That's how they rock, and that's how they roll, and that's why they're idiots in my mind. So that's what I mean by idiots, just in case you're wondering. It's that divide and rule. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's bullying. It's like they never went to school and got told by a teacher that to be basically nice, just in a simple sense of nice. So that's the problem there. But we can get rid of that, though. But my point is about the state superstructure. If you then gave us all the power, then we would just be we'd just become like what our enemy was. And that's why we must avoid doing that, by getting power thinly spread across society. That's the only way to do it. So we take on the Starmer government. We get as many concessions as possible. We make the UK ungovernable, and then power just evolves beyond Downing Street and Westminster. Because if power cannot be enacted at Westminster, but they're also unwilling to spread it, then power will just eventually be found elsewhere. They'll say, "No, this is more relevant than there," and that's our aim. It's to make Britain. It's first of all, it's to get some redistribution in that's desperately needed. Definitely. I'm not avoiding that for 1 second, but at the same, and that also then links in to our demands becoming too much for them. We make Britain ungovernable so that power then spreads out beyond Westminster. So that it's been. So we're going to try to give an example. You don't need that centralised power. There's no need for it. There's no need for it. Switzerland's not like that. So if you said, "Oh, right," so then you make them. If I'm saying like Britain becomes ungovernable, it just means ungovernable from a clique at Westminster. It doesn't mean to say that Britain is ungovernable per se. It means that we don't need to be governed, quite like that, and that power can be thinly spread, and you get a less propagandized, a less mentally ill society, a less brainwashed society, a more mature society, a more sane society. So that's the goal. But it will not be a Paris-like violent thing. Not that. I'll never support that anyway. If that happened, it would be nothing to do with me. I'd just oppose it, and I'd make videos explaining why and how and what I don't like about it. Anyway, I think I've made my points. So that'll do for now.